Our questions from Gus. Gus, friend of the show, who asks, or who says, I'm kind of sad that people don't really care about Onimusha. I don't care about Onimusha because I never played one. Maybe if I played one, I'd like it. Personally, I liked it more than other Capcom titles like Devil May Cry 1 and 2 at the time. Apparently, Devil May Cry 2 sucks, so it's normal to like a lot of things more than DMZ2. I can only imagine how awesome a samurai game would be if it was made by Capcom now. Is there any other games you wish for them to revive, like God Hand or Breath of Fire? Well, actually, yeah, I do. I played Breath of Fire 2 forever ago, and I think it would be cool for Capcom to have a traditional kind of RPG series again. I guess Monster Hunter is, well, it's the closest thing they have to an RPG right now. I think it would be cool for them to have an RPG series it was kind of like Breath of Fire is cool. It's kind of like their Final Fantasy with, basically different universes for every entry, but similar kind of motifs and a lot of repeated character names. Cool series. I think it would be neat to bring back in some kind of way. Not even like a re-release or something like that. I know Breath of Fire is like 3 and 4 are pretty well liked. It could be an opportunity for them. But for me personally, well, you say Capcom series that you want to see get brought back. And this is because last time I talked about Mega Man. So obviously, yeah, it goes without saying Mega Man is one of them. Also goes without saying all the fighting game stuff. I would love to see a Darkstalkers revival. Some kind of just like mid-budget Darkstalkers fighting game I think would be really cool. I think that I don't know if their fighting game division is developed out enough right now to support development of 2 games, but mayhaps, you never know. It would be a neat thing to see in the future. Marvel vs. Capcom, obviously, I've heard Rival Schools is really neat, and that would be a cool thing to see come back. Cool aesthetic. I like a lot of the characters from it. Also played a lot of Akira and Street Fighter V, so there's that. SNK versus Capcom versus SNK. Obviously, I'm just going through the motions of fighting game series that would be cool to bring back. Oh, Star Gladiator. I think it would be really cool. There's no notable science fiction fighting game series in the modern era, really, which I think is a shame. Besides, I guess, sort of Guilty Gear, it kind of falls into science fiction, but it's got a lot more going. Guilty Gear has a lot more going on in it than just sci-fi. I think like a straight up sci-fi fighting game would be really cool. I'm pretty sure. Am I going nuts in that Star Gladiator was meant to be a Star Wars game at some point, and then they lost the license and just stuck with developing it? I feel like it was something like that, but I don't know. I love the. There's a lot more fantasy or contemporary settings in fighting games, and I have always been a fan of science fiction. I think it would be really cool to see some kind of wacky, zany Capcom take on a sci-fi fighting game series. Another one which doesn't get brought up a lot is Demon's Crest. So Demon's Crest, I would count it as its own little series. There were technically 2 games, Demon's Crest, and I'm looking at a list right here, Gargoyle's Quest, which is just like a GBA. Is it a port or something? I only ever played. Oh no, there was Gargoyle's Quest 2. Okay. So Demon's Quest was basically a spin-off from Ghosts and Goblins, and it followed the red, like, gargoyle demon character Firebrand, who you probably, if you know him from anything, it's from Marvel vs. Capcom. He's that guy. He's the red demon gargoyle guy. And Demon's Crest is just a really cool SNES platformer, like an action platformer. It has a sick. I've never talked about this before. I am a huge well, voice crack. I am a huge fan of Mode 7, Mode 7 effects in video games. If you don't know what that is, it's basically a graphics technique that you only ever really saw on the Super Nintendo. Maybe on the, I don't know if I can't think of anything on the Genesis that used it, but it's basically a little trick they would use to give a flat 2D image depth. So imagine just taking like a piece of paper and just tilting it backwards somewhat. That's like a Mode 7 effect. So all of the race courses in F-Zero, the overworld maps on the Super Nintendo Final Fantasy games, that the ones that have depth at least. Anytime you see the, stuff kind of like tilt and stuff, there's a really cool room in Super Castlevania 4 that's like a cylinder that's constantly spinning. That's a Mode 7 effect. That's sort of faux 3D. They're doing some wacky stuff with the 2D sprites to get it to look, give it depth. I'm kind of surprised that it hasn't made a big comeback with, I guess it sort of has, but so there's just been this whole revival in recent years of older aesthetics from older games that were sort of products of just the hardware, like that PS1 sort of like wiggling effect on everything. That sort of made a comeback with games like Ultra Kill. Obviously, the pixel art style has been around for a while. It had a resurgence quite a while ago. Mode 7, I want to see that coming back. I feel like nowadays you usually see, if there's any kind of like pixel art depth thing that you see, it's usually it's just actually 3D, or it's a voxel based thing or something like that. I want to see some legit Mode 7 because I think it's a super cool effect. I have a big soft spot for it. And Demon's Crest has a really cool overworld map that you could fly around as Firebrand, and it's a whole Mode 7 thing. It's super neat. And it just, I don't know, it's a really cool aesthetic. I'm talking about Demon's Crest now specifically, not just Mode 7. Demon's Crest has a really cool aesthetic. I love playing as a gargoyle. I think gargoyles are cool. They're a cool fantasy creature. And I don't know, just playing as like this sort of demon. Also just kind of interesting to take a character who was like a boss, or not even, he was sort of a boss. I want to say he showed up as also a regular enemy at some points in Ghosts and Goblins. Taking that and making a whole game around him is really cool, and something that you didn't even see very much back then, and almost never today. Like, so rare and weird. Like, imagine if there was a Mario spin-off about, I don't know, like the Wigglers or something like that. Like, you're like, what? The Wigglers? But Firebrand got his, and I think he's like a cool looking character. I'd love to see some kind of just kind of like what they did with the Ghosts and Goblins reboot a few years ago. I think it would be really cool to see some sort of Demon's Crest reboot, because they do those once in a while, like, hey, here's a retro Capcom thing that we just made a new one of randomly for fun. Just a new Demon's Crest game that's just an homage to the original. Don't have to go crazy with new ideas or anything, but that's really neat. I'd like to see that. As of things other than that, things that I have like personal attachments to, not really anything else. I'm sure there's probably people who want to see what is Full House Kiss? Is this about Bob Saget? No, it's a shoujo romance anime, and it has a video game that Capcom did for the PS2. Huh. Okay. Yeah, that's my answer to that question.